All right, so welcome back, guys. Thanks for tuning in to Ducks Hockey and more. Today, we're going to talk about mostly just all those games that were on yesterday. Today is Friday, the 21st. Yesterday's games, there was 12 of them in total, and there was a lot to talk about, a lot of firsts yesterday, so stick around. Let's just start off with some NHL news that I read. Dan Vladar, it's either Vladar or Vladar. I hope I didn't kill that. I kill names. Hey, he's a Calgary goaltender. Signed a 2-year deal, an extension 2-year deal with the Flames for $4.4 million. He was on. This begins next year, so he's still on his current contract. But he was acquired from Boston in a trade. And he was 13-6-2. This is last year's number. 13-6-2, a 2.75 goals against average, and a 906 save percentage. So not bad. As a backup, that's pretty good. That's a respectable set of numbers. And they've kept him around. They're going to keep him around a couple more years. So they like what they see. So Dan is staying with the Calgary Flames. Listen, yesterday, a ton of games. We're just going to dive right into those games, and then I'll touch and talk about the Ducks towards the end. So stick around if you're a Ducks fan so you can hear me talk about the Ducks and Boston game and some more specific issues on that. But let's just get started. Arizona and Montreal went at it yesterday. This was in Montreal. Montreal won 6-2. So now Arizona is 1-3. Montreal is now 3-2. They are above 500. Slavkovsky, number 1 draft pick overall, scored his first NHL goal yesterday, so good for you. I'm sure he's stoked, and I'm sure Montreal fans and the Montreal coaching staff and organization want to see a little bit more of that. So 5 games in, he finally gets one. So hopefully he continues to have success, right? Here's a big one, guys. The Toronto Maple Leafs. I've been talking about them like crazy lately. The goaltending situation. Can they get through this? And, there's also some trade rumors floating around that involve the Toronto Maple Leafs. So, listen, they were going up against the Dallas Stars, who are 3-0 going into this game yesterday. I had a feeling Dallas was going to come in and just kind of not roll over them, but, leave there with 2 points. They didn't. Dallas walked away with 1 point. The Leafs won the game 3-2 in overtime. So here, I've talked about this kid, Robertson. The Leafs sent him down before the season began. He had a really good preseason. They did bring him back up, out of the AHL. And he played yesterday, and guess what? He had 2 goals. One of them, which was the game winner in overtime. So this Robertson kid, he's a young guy, but he looked really good in preseason, and he came through for Toronto last night's game. So good for Toronto. They needed that. They really did. Samsonov was in net for the Leafs. So Ilya Samsonov, he had 26 saves on 28 shots. And who was it? It was Wedgwood in net for Dallas. So not their usual starter, but Ottinger sat down, had a break. Wedgwood made 40 saves on 43 shots. So the Leafs peppered him pretty good. But anyways, that's what they needed, right? They needed a good win, a good confident win. They needed their goaltender, Samsonov, who's now basically the next in line with Matt Murray being out, to kind of carry him. And so if he continues to play well and have games like that, the Leafs have a shot. Okay? It's all about that goaltending, guys. So let's see. LA was in Pittsburgh. Okay, I had a feeling Pittsburgh was going to beat LA in this one. Pittsburgh's just really good right now. In Los Angeles, although they're good, they're riding a 3-game road trips winning streak. But going into Pittsburgh, I thought, well, they're going to hit a really good team here, and I think they're going to get beat, and they did in a big way, 6-1. Pittsburgh beat them 6-1. So now Quick got chased, and Cal Peterson had to come into net, but between the two of them, it was 28 saves on 34 shots. And then Yari was in net for the Pens. He had 39 saves on 40 shots. So the Kings lit him up pretty good. 40 shots on goal is a lot. Yari stood on his head and made all the saves he needed to keep the Pens or keep LA off the board. So except for that one. One note on that one is former Duck Rickard Rakell scored a goal. He second of the year for the Pen. So Ricard Raquel, go Raquel, like that guy. Next game, the Blue Jackets and the Nashville Predators. Jackets won 5-3. I had a feeling the Preds would win this game, only just because the Jackets have been struggling with Patrick Laine out and the inconsistencies. The Blue Jackets have been kind of struggling and limping along, but they came out strong. They beat the Preds. So the Jackets are now 2-3-1. Okay, respectable. And the Preds have dropped to 2-3. So Predators, they opened the season with those 2 wins against San Jose, and now they're losing. They've lost 3 in a row. So I don't know. Or actually, I think they're 2-3-1. But either way, long story short, Preds are starting to slide, and I don't know why. I don't understand. They've got a really good team. Their roster is pretty good, top to bottom. Really good goaltending, good defense. They've got the ability to put the puck in the net. So what's going on in Nashville? Interesting to see what happens there and how they right the ship. I'm sure they will, because they, like I said before, they do have a strong team. So their backup was in net. That could have been why they got lit up pretty good. Alankinen was his name. I've not heard of this player, but he had 37 saves on 41 shots. And Goudreau had a couple of goals in that one. So good for the Jackets. Here's one that was a big one. I had, and if you watch my last video, you'll know. So San Jose was 0-5 going into the game against the New York Rangers last night in New York. I thought, well, that's a no-brainer. They're going to be 0-6. Well, guess what? They got their first win of the year. San Jose. 3-2 over the Rangers. This hit did have to go to overtime, but they did it. Reimer was in net for San Jose. He stood on his head. Well, actually, he didn't stand on his head. He wasn't even peppered that much, quite honestly. The Sharks did a good job at limiting the shots from the Rangers. So 21 saves on 23 shots. That's all the Rangers had, was 23 shots. And Shesterkin had a bad night. 24 saves on 27 shots. Not that good for him. Special teams. New York Rangers were 0-5 on the power play. Okay, that right there tells me, hey, you're 0-5. I think San Jose was 1-3 or something like that. They did have one power play goal. That makes all the difference in the world. They won the game. So if your special teams are clicking and doing well, and your defense and your goaltending, which are huge, are doing their job, guess what? You win the game. I mean, it's pretty simple. Pretty simple stuff. So San Jose now is 1-5. And the New York Rangers are now 3-1-1. This was their well, you get a point out of it. So that's that last one there. Next game, Ottawa and the Washington Capitals. Ottawa's starting to come on. They beat the Caps 5-2. So Ottawa is now 2-2. They're starting to put the puck in the net. The Caps fall to 2-3. Forsberg was in net for Ottawa. He was 22 saves out of 24 shots. So he really didn't have much work to do out there. Darcy Kemper now, he had a lot of work to do. Ottawa lit him up, 39 saves on 42 shots. Here, I'm noticing a trend, and this is not something new, but the trend, and when you really look at the numbers, it really comes down to, you can tell just by those stats alone and that shot total, who dominated the game. In this case, we're talking about Ottawa and the Capitals, and Ottawa had 42 shots on goal. 42 people to 24 for the Caps. Very similar to the Ducks' woes for in the beginning of the season, where they're getting outshot horribly and they're losing games. Well, look at this. This is another example of that, right? So you got to limit your shots on your own net and help your goalie out as best as you can. These teams that are getting blown out in shots, very rarely do you see the outcome be the team that's outshot ends up winning. It's very rare. Their goalie would have to stand on their head and have one of those dialed in nights to pull it off. You know what I mean? So typically it goes the other way, because when you see shot totals like that, it's not only they're shooting more on you, but that means they're dominating the game, and more aspects of the game is spent in your zone. You're defending, and eventually the puck's going to go in, people, especially if you're getting outworked like that. So anyways, long story short, Ottawa wins 5-2. Hey, Devils and New York Islanders, they went at it last night. Devils won. They beat the Islanders. I had a feeling that would be a pretty tight game, maybe a one-goal type of win game, only because both teams are trying to find their feet and get going in the season here in the beginning of the season. But the Devils, who just beat us and got their first win of the year, beating the Ducks, ended up going to the Islanders and beat them 4-1. So they had a really good game. Some of the stats that give you an idea on that is, check this out, okay? Devils, going up against Sorokin, the goalie for the Islanders. Sorokin's one of the best in the league. Okay, so the Devils, they put up 42 shots on the Islanders. 42 shots. 39 of those were saved by Sorokin. So you can see right there, you outplay them. I mean, look at this. The difference was the New York Islanders only had 17 shots on net. Okay, that's such a huge discrepancy and difference that it's obvious that the Devils won the game. It's very obvious just looking at those numbers alone. Just so you guys know, Palat had a goal. Sorry, I think he had 2 last night. Hughes had a goal, and he had a goal. So Devils are looking good. They're big names. They're big players. Are starting to produce. Let's see. Let's go to the next one. Canucks and Wild. I made a small joke yesterday in the last video. So one of these teams was going to come out and finally get their first win of the year. Vancouver or Wild, which one was it going to be, right? Well, it was the Wild. It took overtime to get there, but it was the Minnesota Wild that came out on top. They beat the Vancouver Canucks 4-3 in overtime. So the Canucks fall to 0-3-2. Man, what a start for the Canucks. It's just, they're getting close to that win column, but not quite there yet. The Wild are finally in the win column. They are now 1-3. First win of the year for them. Hey, Vancouver had 2 separate leads in this game. Now they've led in every game, most of them by more than 1 goal, and ended up losing. So here we go again. Vancouver, couple of 1-goal leads. Minnesota never let them get away too far, but they still had the lead twice and ended up losing in overtime. So I don't know. Thatcher Demko, 33 saves on 37 shots. Demko's got to be better, guys. That's part of the Vancouver's problem there, I think. He's got to be better. He really does. Marc-Andre Fleury had a decent game finally. Not too bad. 23 saves on 26 shots. So there you go. Wild got their first win. Here's a big one. Carolina's on a big road trip. They're 3-0. They're going into the Edmonton, Alberta, to take on the Oilers. Now, here are my 2 picks, okay? I picked the Carolina Hurricanes to go to the Cup on the East. Oilers to go to the Cup in the West. That's my prediction. Here they are, early season battle, right? And the Oilers have been struggling. They haven't had a great start to the season, and the Hurricanes are doing really well, right? Carolina's off to a great start. Oilers won. This was a shootout, 10 goals in all between the 2 teams, and Edmonton won 6-4. So Oilers are now 2-2. Carolina gets their first loss of the regular season. They are now 3-1. Svechnikov for the Carolina, even though they lost, Svechnikov had a hat trick in that game. So that's a good takeaway from that game for Carolina. Freddie Anderson was in net. He had 27 saves on 32 shots. On the Oilers side of things, Connor McDavid, best player in the NHL in the world, easily. He had a 4-point night, 1 goal, 3 assists, so he dominated, and Jack Campbell had 36 saves on 40 shots. He's got to get better. He really does. I think for the Oilers right now, McDavid and Draisaitl, they have to be themselves, and they will be. But it comes down to Campbell and his ability to keep them in games and steal games and, just dominate. He needs to be better. So there you go. Let's see, Buffalo and the Flames. So here's another one where I thought, well, Buffalo's going into Calgary. Calgary's off to such a good start. That should be an easy one for Calgary, right? Now, keep in mind, any team in the NHL can win on any night. I don't care how bad you are, you can still beat a really good team. Buffalo won. Buffalo's been playing really well. They have a really good start to the season. Buffalo fans are stoked at what they're seeing. And it's kind of nice to see them finally having some success. Let's just see how long they can sustain that, right? They went into Calgary, beat them 6-3. So that's a pretty good performance. Buffalo is now 3-1, and so are the Flames. They got their first loss of the year at the hands of the Sabres. So they are 3-1. Listen, Eric Comrie, the goalie for the Buffalo Sabres, he's doing really well. He's standing on his head. He's getting peppered almost on a nightly basis, but he kept him out of the net. He allowed 3, but he had 40 saves on 43 shots. Markstrom got chased because he had 9. He let in 3 goals on 12 shots, so he got chased. And Dan Vladar finished the rest of the game there. He had 17 saves on 19 shots. So, Buffalo just took it to him. But, it is what it is. It's going to happen. Commerce stood on his head for sure. Let's see. Vegas Golden Knights. We're getting to the end here. I'm going to talk about the Ducks last. So thanks for sticking around. Vegas Golden Knights 5, Winnipeg 2. So Vegas is looking really good. Really strong start to the season. Thompson is playing really well. A lot of good things right now in Vegas if they can keep riding this wave. So they are now 4-1. The Winnipeg Jets fall to 2-2. Okay, so let's just get into the Ducks game and Boston Bruins. So I've been harping and yelling and screaming about the Ducks and their horrible play, especially on the defensive side of things in front of their goaltenders. What an absolute difference. I like to think that maybe they listen to me. Chances are that's not the case, but they finally played a very good game, start to finish. They lost the game, okay, but it was in a shootout. 2-1 was the final score. Boston's the highest scoring team going into that last night's game. Going into TD Garden, I thought, the way they're playing, Boston's going to roll right over them. Definitely wasn't the case. The Ducks looked really, really good. They had some chances on the offensive side, not as many as I'd like to see. Boston's a good defensive team. Even though they've got a lot of injuries and a lot of guys out, they did a good job at kind of containing the Ducks' ability to get in there and create chances. The Ducks got a great goal from Vetrano. That guy's got a great shot. But it was a sweet play that Vetrano buried on a one-timer, and that was a good thing. But ultimately, the biggest good thing that came out of this game for the Ducks was the fact that they were responsible. They didn't turn the puck over like crazy. They made good, clean passes out of their zone. It was just such a better defensive game. They were boxing out players better in front of the goaltender. Winning battles. I've talked about them. They need to win the battles and stop watching the other team skate around and just, outplay them in every way. And the Ducks didn't do that. It was a pretty even contest when it came right down to it. Some stats. Boston now is 4-1. Let's get this out of the way. And the Ducks are now 1-3-1. Let's see. Taylor Hall was the star of the game for Boston. Their other big names didn't have much of an impact at all. A couple of opportunities, but Gibson shut them down. Taylor Hall scored the one goal for Boston. I think it was in the second period, and then he had a shootout goal, the only goal in the shootout for Boston, which ended up winning it because the Ducks didn't have any scores that beat Ullmark. Ullmark played a really good game, and Gibson did too. It was really good. It was basically a goaltending defensive battle, the whole thing. So, but Taylor Hall was kind of the star there, and Ullmark you could throw in there as the star of the game of that one. But the Ducks looked like a whole new team. They killed every penalty kill they had. They killed all of Boston's power plays. And like I said, defensively, they were doing so much better. It was much improved effort by the Ducks. I couldn't be happier with what I saw last night. What can you say? Ducks need to do this on a nightly basis. Okay. At the same time, got to score some goals too, guys. So they need to open it up, I think, a little bit, so they can get down there. They are a good team when they are transitioning. The Ducks in a transition type of offense are very good. When teams limit the Ducks to those 2-on-1s or those 3-on-2 breaks that the Ducks can get, Ducks have a tough time sometimes. Their power play's not the greatest yet this year. It's okay, but it could be better. The penalty killing was horrible leading up to last night's game. The last couple games they've been really good. They haven't let any goals in, but penalty killing's got to stay solid. This defensive play that I saw last night from the Ducks has to continue. And I think the Ducks might start turning this around. They've got Detroit on Sunday, I believe, and that's the last game of this 5-game road trip. And then they come home, which I'm sure is going to be a nice thing. Getting back home hopefully they can start putting some wins together and get back in this. I believe in this team. I think they have a really good, solid team. And yeah, I think they should be doing way better than the standings show. So last night's game, that was a good one. I like what I saw. So good going on the Ducks side. Yeah, so hey guys, subscribe down below. I need you guys to get on board so you can get all my content. Every time I put up a video, you can see what I'm talking about that day. Today we're not talking about too much, obviously. I just wanted to go over all those games. There were so many of them. So thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for sticking around to the end. Subscribe, please, down below. I need it. Comment. Send me comments. I've been getting comments every day now, and it's been really nice. I return those comments as soon as I see them. So I like hearing what you guys have to say. I love talking hockey, straight up. So again, thanks for watching. Thanks for all your support. Go down and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.